about my guest today. My name is Sabine. I'm also known as the Storytelling Dame from Germany. And these lives are to document the journey of Gumption and how to become a best selling author. And along the way, I will have other guests on my show. But today, I'm so excited to have Anne Zuckerman here. And last time I read to you the first beginning of my book, and that was about this wonderful lady. So before I go any closer into how we met, first of all, welcome, Anne. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. This is exciting.
Yes, this is very exciting. And I can't wait for you to share more about our journey. But for our listeners, just give us a quick overview of who is Anne Zuckerman.
Um, okay. I am defined as a serial entrepreneur with a patented product to camouflage those headlight moments that women have. That took me on a very interesting journey to being a podcast host and also a fixed code practitioner. I help ladies and gentlemen release those emotional issues that are holding them back from achieving their goals or getting to where they want to be.
Yes, I love it. And podcasting is the connection that we had. We met 2 years ago at a Podfest expo, at a Podfest expo in Orlando. And that's where we connected for the first time and we had a good conversation. But last year, January, is when the magic started to happen. We saw each other again, and that is the power of connection. And in that process, you interviewed me. And this is how the whole thing got started. And I remember afterwards you came to me and you said, Sabine, you need to write a book. And I was chuckling inside because I already wrote 3 books, right? But then you persisted and said, no, no, you don't understand. You have to write your story, your memoir, because your life is so colorful. And I remember these words, they still echo in my mind. And that was really the beginning because it started something. Because you see, in the back of my mind, I had that idea. And isn't it so true that we have ideas, we wanted to do something, but then maybe not acting upon it until like a chance meeting or this conversation that we had?
Oh, totally. I remember that moment as well. I was sitting there and you were telling some of your stories, and I was thinking, wow, I so want to learn more. You have to write it in a book. And I recently read your memoir, and it is absolutely wonderful. I love the stories.
Oh, thank you, Anne. Yeah, that's where it all started at Podfest. And now, a year later, this is the book, Gumption, Sacred Whispers, Bold Moves, and the Courage to Become. So, so, and tell me, from your perspective, so you read the book and give our listeners your feedback.
Well, I love the fact that you tell us the stories about how you got started in acting, how you moved to the United States, what happened along the way, and some of your setbacks. And I was sharing with you the other day that so often you see someone in a light where everything is positive and they've exceeded all expectations, and they've been in your mind, they've always been successful. or the old story of the overnight success that took 10 years to get there. In your case, you had all of these ups and downs, and you share some of that in your book. And I think that's so valuable for so many of us to hear because it gives us hope. And you always see the positive around the next corner.
Yeah, that's true. That is my mentality. That's how I grew up. That's how I went through life. With that said, yes, there were some heavy setbacks in my life, some challenging situations, and yeah, I would lie if I would say, well, I would be always happy. No, no, no. I had my share of tears and feeling down, but I never let that stop me to move forward. And I always look for the silver lining. I always look for, why did this happen to me? What can I learn from it? Not, oh, why my poor me? No, but there's always a reason why things happen the way they happen, for you to grow, for you to move forward. And as I explained in my book, there were situations, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And that, for me, is one of the biggest secrets in life.
Oh, I so agree. Both of us have had a lifetime of experience. And I still sit down some days and think, what's next? Because we never know. We never know. If someone had told me that I would reach my 70s and still look for possibility, we normally think of people getting to a certain point in life. When we were young, it was 30. 30 was over the hill. And I used to joke, what hill where? I never saw the hill. But then I turned 50 and then I turned 60 and I was still saying, well, what's next? What's next? And now
Yes.
I'm past 70 and I'm still saying, well, I could try this. I could learn that. It's pretty amazing. And I love that. And I love the fact that you're younger than I am, certainly, but I love the fact that you're so positive in that, yes, there may be setbacks, but let's try something new, like podcasting and live interviews.
Yes,
Who
yes,
knew?
I know. And I love what you just said, that there is, the age is just a number, really. And yes, there are obviously some limitations physically, to some degree, from where we are to a 20-year-old, right? Of course. However, life in and of itself is limitless with what we can do, especially with the experiences that we had. And you had quite a few experiences, because I remember we talked about it and I interviewed you on my podcast, Become Empowered. And it was a marvelous interview. So for anyone listening, you can search it, and I'll make sure that I will put the link in the show notes and in the description here as well. But tell our listeners a little bit about your experiences, because from marrying very late in life to changing careers and starting your own business so late in life. So give us just a little glimpse of Anne and how she went through the chapters by asking what's next.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I started out in retail. My mom and my family background was retail, and my mom had a small shop, and I ran as fast and as far as I could to get away from it. I said, "Yeah, no, this isn't going to happen." And so I moved to different cities and tried different things. And for years, I was a secretary. And then as things would happen, I had to go back and enter my mother's business. But I I say this jokingly, but it really was very challenging at the time. She had a business, but she didn't own the building. And my landlords had other thoughts in mind for the space. And ultimately, I had to move the business, and then I ended up going out of business. But in the meantime, I saw a product, and I thought, I could do better than that. And my mom had passed away, and I had the means to be able to take a risk. And so that's what I did, and created and got a patent for a product. But then I needed to get the product out there, and everything had changed. It used to be that if you had a product, you went to a trade show. But then the business at the trade shows changed, and online selling and all of that. So I had to learn all of that. And that morphed me in a different direction, ultimately into creating a podcast to help other entrepreneurs get out there on a bigger stage.
Oh, wow. Well, can I just ask you before we go into that? So you had to reinvent yourself, basically. No more trade shows, right? How old were you when that all happened?
I
About.
was in my 50s and 60s.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Usually, when this happens, if somebody is at that stage, oftentimes, that they say, ah, this is it now. I cannot learn anything more. And, giving up, going out of business. This is for many people the reason to give up. But you didn't. You found something that you could expand on it. And what was it that you found?
Well, I found this one company that was very involved with creating funnels. And I thought, okay, fine. Marketing's changed. I've got to learn what this is all about. And I love puzzles. And I thought, oh, this is something new I can learn. And I won't say that it wasn't challenging. It was very, very challenging. But I love learning, and there's a big box, and there's so many exciting toys in the box. I had to learn about one, just in fact one more.
Yeah, oh, I love that analogy of the toy box. There is a big box and there's so many things you can learn. And you mentioned like toy. That reminds me of fun, excitement. And isn't it so true? Many people forget to play in life. We forget being kids. When we were children, everything was fun. We played, we explored, we created things, we knocked something over and started something new. And I always remind my audiences to not forget that, because that's the fun part. And you know, I and and I try my best to stay quote unquote as young as I can be. And even if it seems silly for someone else, but here's the good thing. I don't care anymore what anybody else is thinking, right? When you reach a certain age, sometimes I just have so much fun and so much joy. And I'm in this big grocery store, and I'm on this cart, and there is space, and I'm just gonna run and step on that cart and just fly with the cart. Those are the silly things that I do sometimes.
Well, but it's so true. And the other thing that I would say is, when we were young in school, you take tests, you get a grade, and there's a certain order to things. As you get older, you find that that's not true in life. And there's no way to go through life and experience without failures and setbacks. It just doesn't happen. The question is, how seriously do you take them? And what, as you said before, what are the lessons we've learned from them? And you find that sometimes there are gifts in those failures. And as you said, if this didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be there. And you put that in your book as well. And I think that is really it it's a wonderful it's wonderful to hear that over and over and over again to remind us that we don't know where the gifts are going to come.
Yeah. And that was my intention. It's not just sharing stories. I mean, stories are wonderful, but with stories, there should always be a point to a story, or when you make a point, put a story to it, right? That is the connection. And that was my intention when I wrote this book, to also share the lessons. And the title, which by the way also came from the Podfest that I attended last year. I was also interviewed by another person, another lady. She had 10 questions that she wanted to ask successful people. So she asked me if I would be open to do this interview and ask those 10 questions. I said, sure. And one of the question was, what do you think your success, or what's the word that I'm looking for? What do you
What do you attribute to your success?
yes, thank you very much. See, that is that sometimes I still looking for the right words, right? English is not my first language. So thank you for, and that's why I have those guests. Yeah, contribute. That's the word I was looking for. So the question was, what do you contribute your success to? And immediately it came gumption. I love this word because it has so much power to it. Because gumption means so much more than courage. Gumption means moving forward, even if everything inside you screams, stop. And that was like the guiding light for me. And when I got that book offer, or the book deal offered, also at Podfest, because right after our conversation, I went to the expo hall where different vendor tables were, and one was from a New York publisher. And there was a sign that says, pitch me your book and we'll give you feedback. I didn't have a book at that time, but I wanted some feedback, so I did. And long story short, I go into detail so you can rewatch the Saturday Live from last week. But long story short, I got offered the contract. And then there was, okay, title. And my editor said, oh, don't worry about that yet. Just give it a working title. So I had to fill out a form, why and what's the title, even it's a working title. And right away it says Gumption. And the tagline came a little bit later, but that was my working title. And that stayed. Everyone loved, just it was just such a bold statement. And that is what this book is all about. And saying what you said, the lessons I gave, each letter has a meaning, and you will discover it when you read the book. And by the way, the book is not out yet. However, you can pre-order it, and if you are in the United States, you can do it at Barnes and Noble, or any of your favorite bookstores. But if you do it at Barnes and Noble, let me know. And if you send me a receipt of your order, because you don't get that physical book until August, I will give you the link to my e-book version so you can read it right away, and perhaps even can get on Saturday Live where you can share your insights, what if you want to discuss a certain topic. So I just wanted to put this out there. So thank you for sharing. What was your, or one of the takeaways from the 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 lessons or the wisdom that you discovered in the book?
Well, there were many. I loved learning more about your background, about your transitions, about what you bring to your coaching practice, because that's what I was most interested in. You're a coach, you're a speaker. I want to learn more about how to do that more successfully. And so for that reason I was very interested in finding out what your background is, because that's what you bring to your coaching. So that was great. And there's something to be said for reading about someone, reading their stories, and understanding where they came from, because it's that know, like, trust. And even though I knew you, I mean, we've spoken, we've met, we've spent time together, there was just so much more. And it was truly a wonderful experience. And I felt so blessed to be able to read the book before the actual hard copy publication.
Yes, and you will get a hard copy signed. So definitely, that will be something. I do have some signed copies from individuals that I admire, that I met in person during an event. So those are special moments. And by the way, there is in my story, I don't know if you recall the story of Pippi Longstocking, which was one of my first main roles that I played as a young actress. There was the musical Pippi Longstocking, and I got the author, Astrid Lindgren. She is from Sweden, and she wrote the series of Pippi Longstocking. And I got a book personally signed from her. So those are the treasures that you just keep, right? Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Wow, I'm I'm so blessed, and that I met you, and that we have this conversation today. Because oftentimes, uh, when you talk about something, about a book or a program or anything else, it's all good, something that you created. But to hear it from someone else who is genuinely saying something makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. Um, as you were saying what you just said, one of the stories that you speak about in your book is completing a half marathon, and what's involved with that and where it takes you. The other thing that I should mention to the listeners today is that the book also has some wonderful photographs in it. I love the photographs.
Oh,
So that was exciting too. But when you spoke about the half marathon, wow, what an accomplishment! What an accomplishment. And to say, look, this is what I did. This is the strength that I bring to everything I do in life. I look at the problem, I figure out what I need, and I move to getting to that goal. And so I think that was a really important story for me as a reader, to
yeah,
know that you put everything into it.
yeah. Great for some who have completed a half marathon or maybe even a full marathon. They say, yeah, it's not too bad. But for someone who has never ran more than 3 miles in her life, and then deciding 6 weeks prior to start it, and then even got injured. I got injured, so I go into that as well, and couldn't train for 2 weeks. but for me, the reason to do this was, again, it was a challenge because it came through a meeting that I had with another person who said, "Oh, yes, you should do it." I said, "Yeah, oh, okay, I could." I'm just taking those things, right? And but what it taught me is the resilience that we have as human beings. And I put a lot of this half marathon run as a metaphor for all the other things that we face in life. Because I tell you, when you come to mile 10, it's like 13.1 mile is the, I think is that correct one. You like, everything screams. It's like, stop. What are you doing? Sabine, you are crazy. You know, those shattering monkey voices that we have. And we have that in life, period. If we run a half marathon, if we start a new business, if we, whatever we're going to do, there's always those times in life. But there is something that will help you overcome that. And I hope I brought that across in my book as well.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's a lovely, lovely memoir and book. And I really enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. And you have such great wisdom to share as well. You make comments in there and give people direction and suggestion. And these are the life lessons that I've learned. These are the takeaways that you might also embrace. And I thought that was really valuable.
Yeah, thank you. And it is how I describe it also in the book. It's, I let every reader take away what they need to take away. Sometimes when people ask me what it's about, to give like a short, maybe this is somewhat what it's about. It's a mix between Chicken Soup for the Soul, which is all about stories and inspiration, Think and Grow Rich, those lessons and those principles that make life successful. And then The Secret, in which a big part is the spirituality in The Secret. And how the universe works together, God, whatever you believe is, but the spiritual aspect in life is super important for me because there sometimes is a guidance, a higher power that helps you achieve and go through those difficult times in life. And so I'm very excited about the release and about the book tour that I'm going to do and about the documentary. And you are now part of the documentary because of course, how we met, but also here sharing your experience reading the book as well.
Oh, thank you so very much.
And it was such a blessing meeting you and also having you here on this live show. Is there any last piece of wisdom that you would like to share?
Well, I am still finding what my next chapter is. That's about all I can say. And every day brings a new challenge. I shared a story with some people last week that it only took me 7 hours to complete a 1 hour YouTube instructional video. The video was 1 hour. It took me 7 hours and 2 days.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. We all are on a journey. And here is one thing I want to read this to you because I'm on a journey. I'm always learning. Right now, I'm taking an AI accelerating course and classes because I always want to stay on the edge with technology as well. And so someone shared, or the guide, I think, oh, yeah, Vision, shared what he learned from his coach. See, even the biggest coaches have coaches and they have coaches. We always continue to grow and learn. But I want to share this with you because I wrote it down because that is how I guided my life. And especially when I started my online business, trust me, I was frustrated in there as well. But here's the sentence. I solve every problem that comes my way in a fun and easy way. Isn't that wonderful?
That is. I'll have to remember that because I'm not sure about the easy part.
But here is the thing. See, when Vishen shared his story with us, saying, "Hey, yeah, my coach, we have the session, and then he shared, yeah, oh, I solved this problem again. Yeah, and this problem came up, but I was able to solve it." And then his coach reminded him, you know, stop this because this is something that keeps you not moving forward and stuck, and because you are looking for problems, right? And then he gave him this suggestion to say in a fun and easy way. And when we give this command to our subconscious mind, so consciously, our conscious mind says, I will solve every problem in a fun and easy way. That's my conscious, even though maybe I don't know if it's so easy, but I'm just going to say it. And I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. And then eventually the subconscious mind says, oh, okay, it's going to be easy. And just see what happens. Maybe it is becoming easier. Maybe it comes from 7 hours to 3.5 hours. It's still long, but it's easier. And you have that, okay, it's my time, but it makes it different, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's the conscious and the subconscious. And at the beginning, our subconscious always wants to create the problem because that's what our subconscious does. The
Yeah.
voice inside that is saying, yeah, you think you need this, but it's not going to happen. Um, but if we're truly honest with ourselves, we can change that mindset and we can change the subconscious into belief. And you're right. We need to change it into fun and understanding that we have the ability to do it in a fun and easy way. We have a choice. We can do it the easy way or the hard way.
That's
But you're
right.
right.
Yeah. And you have a program that addresses that, right? How we can get unstuck and go through eliminating some blocks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it is about changing the voice, changing what we're hearing, our subconscious voice saying. And having said that, I have just revealed to everyone that I still struggle with certain things,
We all do.
and we all do.
Right. And that is the wonderful things once I understood that. There are always those mentors in our lives, people who are a step ahead of us, or two or three or 10. It doesn't matter. But guess what? They also have their moments because that's what's called life. However, the more we evolve, the easier it becomes to snap out of it or to solve the problem. And even the biggest thought leaders have their moments. And I still remember the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. I love his books and his teachings. By the way, some of my songs even were inspired by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Can you believe that? But what he shared in one of his interviews was there were so many things that coming my way, and he was very successful. But if you are successful, then a lot of demands are on you. And at one time he says, and I was just like screaming, "Ah!" to let that frustration out. And that was such a enlightened moment for me to see that no matter who you are, we all have to go through certain situations in our lives. With that said, the more you learn, the more you grow, the easier it gets, the faster you get through it and move on. That's, I think, the best how I can explain it.
Yeah, you also have the ability to look at the challenges that you have and with a history, which you don't have when you're really, really young because you haven't had the experience in your history. And so, yeah, there are certain, and that's one of the things that I love about what I do. Let's look at the challenge, the emotional challenge, the emotional block that you have. What are you learning from it? What is your takeaway? What can you release? What can you get rid of? And still, you still have the story. The story doesn't go away. You always have the story, but the emotional investment doesn't necessarily have to be there. So you can, I know that there have been times when I've faced a challenge, I've gotten upset, but now I can look back at the story and say, that was the story. I was upset, but I'm no longer feeling the emotional connection. I'm
That's the
taking
point.
I'm taking the learnings and I'm moving forward. And I
Yeah,
think that's one of the beautiful gifts of moving through life and having the experiences that one gets to experience.
beautifully said. Well, that was a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Anne, for being here. And listeners, if you're still here, make sure you pre order the book Gumption and let me know. Send me a screenshot of the receipt, and I will send you the ebook version right away so you can start reading and perhaps even get onto my Saturday live. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, always remember, serve from the heart, follow your passion, and live the life